if you had to like make a guess, what do you think is the worst holiday movie of all time? And I'm talking about like since the beginning of telling Christmas stories, like around a fire when that's all there was to do.
Well, you know that I feel It's a Wonderful Life. It's the worst Christmas movie.
Yeah, and you know you're
time.
completely outnumbered on that classic. No, the answer is Love Actually.
How dare you?
The worst movie. Sometimes I don't even think it's fair just to say worst Christmas movie, just to say worst movie.
Wow.
Just
wow.
Worst movie.
Lisa Christiansen, those are fighting words. And
Yeah.
we're going to save those fighting words for our first live taping at the Rio Theater.
Yes, I am very excited about this. And as Pop This listeners know, this is a perennial debate.
An annual fight, if you will.
It's just something we enjoy doing every year.
This time, we are only fighting about Love Actually. Is it the best or worst Christmas movie of all time?
Yeah, well.
So, joining us for our live recording, wonderful comedian and author Alicia Tobin, also recent guest on the podcast.
My side.
And also senior programmer and writer Rachel Fox from the Rio Theater. And on my side.
What did
So
you do
there.
to get her to go on your
I'll
side?
never tell.
Yeah, I bet you won't.
So, Sunday, December 15th, doors at 6 p.m. We're going to do the live podcast recording at 6:30, and then at 7:45, a full screening of Love Actually.
And I think half the audience might leave, but they can come with me somewhere.
Wow, I can't wait. I think it's going to be fantastic.
It is. It's a Christmas holiday tradition. You'll want to make one of your own.
I can't wait to fight with you.
I'm ready.
I feel it in my fingers.
I feel it in my... No, you're not going to... No.
You're on my side now.
No.
You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
See, I've got used to, like, there are certain things that I like to eat, and I don't really think they should taste like meat. Like, I really love cauliflower. I find it, and this might be a bold thing to say, but I'm going to say it, I really find it the most versatile vegetable.
I find it the worst. I hate it, and
I love everything you can do with it. I feel like you can do so many things. You can even make, like, a rice out of it, and even a pie crust.
I know.
I mean, it has...
Pizza crust, it's a versatile vegetable.
Right? And, you know, most people think of the most versatile vegetable, I think, is the potato.
Sure.
Right?
But you can't turn it into a lot of different things.
No,
it's always a
whereas
potato.
A cauliflower.
I turn it into a food vessel.
You don't eat any cauliflower at all?
I hate cauliflower.
And what about if you didn't know? Like we were saying, like you could make it into a pizza crust.
Yeah, I've tried cauliflower wings and stuff like that. Like I really.
You don't like the buffalo wings when they deep fry them?
I hate buffalo. Like I hate buffalo
city?
sauce.
Oh,
and
sorry.
the city.
And the animal?
It's so hard. I like the animal. The animal's never done anything wrong to me. No, I really hate buffalo sauce. Like I don't like anything that's too
Tangy?
too vinegary.
Oh, I like the tang. You don't like Frank's hot
I like
sauce, I'll
that
bet then.
myself.
Gross. No.
Love Frank's hot sauce.
Mm-hmm.
I have to buy the big bottles, like the giant ones.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem in my life. But you know what? Let's face it. I'm basic. I'm a ketchup girl.
Oh, nothing wrong with ketchup.
No. I think that's, I mean, when you nail it, when you just get it right the first time, like ketchup, you don't have to, it gives you everything you need.
Although I do enjoy, I really like, again, another basic on my part, I like an apple butter barbecue sauce. So it's a little bit sweet, a little bit tangy.
I don't know if I can tell the difference. I would eat any barbecue sauce. I have zero. Like, I am the least picky eater on the planet.
And I'm one of the most.
Anything.
So.
I will eat anything, even though I'm trying not to eat meat now. Like, I'm really working at it. And it's not, like I said, it happens like once, sometimes not even a week. But I still really like it and crave it and want it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the... That's the hardest thing.
I avoid the like middle-aged person meats. You're supposed to, the doctors are like, watch out for cholesterol now. So, I'm avoiding all pork. And I was never one of those dudes who were sort of like, put bacon on everything. I mean, I like bacon, but I don't like live for it where you wrap everything in bacon.
See, there's a Danish roast, the pork roast with all the crackling on the top. The pork
sure.
I grew up eating that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know it was exotic. I just thought that was like Sunday dinner. It was just all that crackling.
Cracklings. And on a sandwich? Come on. A little crackling on like a...
I do not care for that at all.
Well,
I have to say no.
You get the crunch and everything.
Oh,
yeah.
salty, crunchy, and fatty, my 3 favorite food groups.
Everything. It's got it all.
They are important. And anyway, here it is. I'm just putting it out there. If anyone's struggling like I am, it's just about having to just say, that's not who I am anymore.
I mean, I was a vegetarian.
I'm this new person.
I was a vegetarian for 5 years, and I got very anemic, and I couldn't keep it up anymore. And but it was a pretty easy 5 years. Like, it turns out that I didn't really miss meat very much. I would if I went to like a Denny's and I was like, I missed the moons over my hammy. You know what I did instead? No ham. Got some barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
Barbecue sauce and eggs. Delicious.
That is delicious.
So delicious.
Yeah. What about like fried chicken? Because I love fried chicken.
I don't like eating anything off a bone, so it didn't affect me either. Plus, I would get these mock chicken cutlets.
And do you find they work?
What you have to do if you want the crunch of it, you have to bake it for basically 3 times as long as the recipe calls for.
Like 6 layers of panko, basically, is what you're looking at.
I mean, I would always buy them like sort of frozen and processed. So it was like the Safeway at the time had a really good one, and like a fake chicken. And
I like Beyond Meat. Sorry, and this is not.
Yeah, and we didn't have Beyond.
And I love that.
I didn't have Beyond Meat.
No, those are good.
So.
They are delicious.
Yeah.
And I do feel though I am still kind of. I really, like I said, I don't want to think. I just want something that tastes good, and I want to learn to like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be looking for meat substitutes, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I have to say, like, honestly, one of the things that I loved the most was, but I mean, it's full of gluten, was like going to like the Buddhist vegetarian Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
And that was just like, give me every gluten fake sweet and sour pork you've got, and delicious.
Whatever that fake lemon chicken is made out of.
Yeah, so good.
That stuff is amazing.
Like Satan and or Satan and gluten, just delicious.
I love gluten.
How is there not like a demonic themed vegetarian bar called Hail Satan?
There
I think
must
that is
wow.
there must. I hope
there must
be
You'll
one.
Let this out into the.
It's got to be in Portland.
Let somebody take it
somewhere.
It's got to be in Portland.
It must exist.
Segue, but I do feel as if there are elements of the movie that we're about to talk about.
Well, Satan anyway.
That definitely, evil is invoked in some capacity, and I have never quite seen a film noir like this, and I am thrilled. My name is Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
And you're listening to Pop This.
The Noirvember edition. Which we've never done before.
We haven't, but you know what? I love it, and I think it's always great to just start new traditions all the time. We're not doing a whole month of it, obviously, but just one episode. And I'm so excited to welcome Dawn English back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me back.
Coming.
Thank you.
It's exciting.
I'm going to read a little bit of your bio. I guess we should also say we are doing the podcast, or the episode about the film Leave Her to Heaven, which Lisa found on YouTube and was like, this is screwed up. And
It is many levels of screwed up.
It really surprised me.
So, Don English is a writer and legal aid worker. His work has been published in the Vancouver Courier, Poetry is Dead, Medium, and most recently in Akashic Books, Vancouver Noir Anthology. He lives in East Vancouver with a view of the docks.
How much more noir do you want?
I noired it up.
You noired it up?
I noired it up for today.
I mean, it's so perfect. And honestly, like, you joined us last time to talk about Out of Sight, and we had a great time discussing that. And I'm so thrilled because this is a much weirder movie, and
tremendously.
And
I think we'll give the plot line in a second here. But just when you said I found it on YouTube, it was quite the happenstance that I did want to watch an older movie.
Uh-huh.
I think, Karina Longworth is all in our minds.
Yeah,
We
sure.
want to, and
Her podcast back.
yeah, her podcast is back. You must remember this.
Yep.
The thing was, I couldn't find any old movies. I went to Netflix. I went to look on Crave. You can find some things, but nothing really great. And I'm like, well, I don't have a Criterion collection of DVDs in my home, so what am I going to do? So I just thought, well, I'll just go onto YouTube and I'll see what's there.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that came up was Leave Her to Heaven. And I thought, well, I've never heard of this movie. And I just, quickly just did a search and saw it was like 95% in Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
also a really well-known, recognized film noir. And I thought, well, let's give this a shot. And I thought at first also that I'd be disappointed on YouTube because the quality would be bad. No.
It's beautiful. I've seen, uploaded things of like old television shows from the 80s or cartoons or whatever, but this is just a beautiful Technicolor looking film that like, looks fantastic on YouTube, which is I was not expecting that.
Yeah, no, neither was I.
It's so gorgeous.
It is so gorgeous.
I was like taking screenshots and taking little clips to send to Lisa while I was like, and you sent me the beautiful. Anyway, it's beautiful.
Let's not get it. I'll just tell Dawn quickly. I did send a shot of our Ellen in a canoe with the sunglasses on.
It's the classic.
It is.
It's a beautiful look.
It is. Do we want to give a quick synopsis of the film or the background? You do the background and I'll do synopsis.
Okay. Leave Her to Heaven is a 1945 American film noir shot in Technicolor, the first film noir that was shot in Technicolor, starring Gene Tierney, Cornell Wilde, Gene Crane, and Vincent Price. The story was adapted for the screen by Joe Swerling from the best-selling novel of the same name by Ben Ames Williams and directed by John M. Stahl. Tierney received an Oscar nomination for Best Actress, but the film actually won an Oscar for Best Cinematography. It was also Fox's highest-grossing picture of the 1940s.
Yeah, that's big news. So, synopsis. John M. Stahl's landmark Technicolor melodrama noir stars Gene Tierney. Oh, we already said that. She is a young socialite who meets Richard, played by Cornell Wilde, a novelist on a train. They fall in love and marry after she leaves her fiancé, Vincent Price, setting off a chain of events that leads to Ellen's escalating suspicion that Richard is actually in love with her adopted sister, Ruth.
Now, what I love about this synopsis, which even though I chose it, it tells you nothing of the things Ellen does.
No.
It gives you no information as to Ellen being the deranged sort of one who's holding on by a thread to any kind of... I don't know, just like good.
Only one other thing that I learned too is that in 1945, or I guess it would have been much earlier, Jean was a very popular woman's name.
Indeed.
I did not know that, but that's nice.
Yeah.
Just Jean, not short for anything.
No,
I guess.
just Jean.
Just Jean.
Just Jean.
Eugenia.
So I guess, this was a rare movie for me to watch and to suggest to you. What were your thoughts?
Well, I had never seen it before. Dawn, had you ever seen it before?
No, this was a first for me.
So, okay, I want Dawn to go first because I feel as our guest
and the film noir expert.
And the film noir expert, yes.
Whoa, I thought it was really interesting. I don't think it's a noir movie. I think it's a melodrama. It's a melodrama that has a really dark twist in the second act.
Why do you think it's called a noir? I was thinking that as well, and I was wondering if it had to do with the female character being so dark.
I think they call Ellen, the character that Gene Tierney plays, a femme fatale, and I don't buy that either. Like, I think and this could be my own biases when it comes to stuff like this, but for me, like, a femme fatale is someone who, whether you're supposed to, find them a compelling character or like a villain, they always have like a clear plan. There's always something that they want to do. They've always got like an end result. And I mean, Ellen, I suppose, does.
I was like, she does have a very clear end
sure
result.
Does.
But she's not like a manipulative person. She seems to almost be confused by her own actions.
I would like to challenge that.
Yeah, me too. The one thing I would say
I think that it doesn't seem like she has a plan. It seems like she's making it up as she goes along.
Like, I would say but I don't know that she is, because it turns out that she did know exactly who he was on the train. She knew that he was coming to the
Dude Ranch
Dude
or whatever
Ranch.
in Arizona.
Yeah, and she knew that he was coming to the Dude Ranch. She was planning to be like reading the book.
Yeah.
And like I feel she did sort of like a little bit set a plan in motion. She just didn't entirely know what it would look like. And mostly because she was so obsessed with her father and he looked like her father.
Yes.
And I think that like that as sort of a thing that like her whole plan is to just continue to have the affections of a man who is her father, while disturbing is still a plan and a manipulation. Like it's not, I mean, not how you want to enter a marriage, but you know, it's I think that is her plan.
I think it's a wish fulfillment femme fatale. Like it's, I mean, a lot of those characters were written by men, but I think this one especially, it's like it's a femme fatale, but her plan is to get into your life and then serve you obediently, and just constantly talk about her obsessive love for you, and no, only I will care for you.
But
only I will cook your food and take care of your house.
But that is a technique of an abuser. Like
True.
It's someone who isolates you and who tries to get you like to do what they want. Like she like literally sucks the yes out of his tongue when she asks him to marry her. Like I was just like, wow, that's the most amazing proposal I have ever seen on film, and this is 1945, and she could not be farther down his mouth than what we are witnessing.
Like her ex-fiance finds out about this engagement before he does.
How is
That's
it?
with
Yeah, I
Vincent
know.
Price, where this is my fiance, and Cornell just has this little like head turn where he's like,
No, here it is.
well,
It's
all right.
2019. That was 1945. We now have the language of red flag.
That is-
feel like it would have been some useful vocabulary back then. But also, I understand, for a film dealing with, wanting to have these kinds of interesting characters, but also sort of stick to some mores of the time. You had to get people married really quickly because they couldn't go to bed or they couldn't have a relationship.
Well, but they admit on the
Yes.
stand that they made love while she was engaged to somebody else.
Yes.
So this movie for 1945, and especially like post Hays Code, does like kind of a lot of stuff, right? Like
It does.
They've got some business they're up to.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a Shakespeare play. That all happens off stage.
And
right?
literally,
This
they
is
could have
always-
only known, like, and talk about fast. I mean, sometimes I think back to that Dude Ranch time. What were they there 3 days?
48
48
hours.
hours.
By the
That's
time
it,
by the time she's like, this is my new fiance. By the way,
Yeah.
will you marry me? Okay.
I think like at that point, I was just like, honestly, so frankly, so the moment that I fell in love with Ellen, which Ellen is the worst. I understand she's terrible.
She's pretty terrible.
She's pretty terrible, but she's also such a ridiculous and compelling lead woman. When she is, and again, I say this as somebody who certainly did and does have a real closeness to my own father, who thought of him as one of my best friends. When she gets atop that horse and makes Spreading the Ashes all about her, and she's just spreading them from side to side.
That was a wild scene.
And just
that
the overhand
horse,
toss of the urn as she rides past that gulch. I'm like,
this was like pretty early in the film, and I was really very like, I don't know what this is. I have never in my life seen a scene like that.
It is the most extra ashes scattering I have ever seen in my entire life. It was a powerful display.
And then having her poor sister and mother watching from beside, kind of like in horror. It was
like, and are we a part of this morning? I did not know what was happening. Was this movie telling us that there had been a horrifying incest sort of relationship between Ellen and her father? Or was she just an obsessive, spoiled sort of narcissist who needed all of the attention on her? Like, her mother and her certainly seemed to have...
It seemed hard to understand if there was some kind of coded language when the mother says she just loved him too much.
Yeah, loved him to death.
Yeah,
that's
and you're like,
that's sort of, that would have been...
is that lit? Like, I understand what it means, but am I missing some subtext here?
Yeah, and I think Ruth, the adopted sister, who's actually her cousin, that's not like a twist or anything.
Yeah,
like
but it's
revealed.
like such a weird anyway, yeah.
But there's that line where she's talking to Richard, and she says that, why did they adopt you? And it's like, well, the mother was very lonely.
She needed
She needed someone, and I just thought, okay, they're clearly really kind of skirting, I guess, the edges.
That sounds like mom and dad had sex once. Ellen was the product, and that was that.
And then that was it.
And then her only companion was Ruth.
I have to say, so I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and someone was being interviewed, and they were like, well, what was it like when your daughter was born? And the father was like, you love this person 10,000 times more than you've ever loved anybody else in your life. And I was like, your wife is sitting beside you. Like, I don't know how to have children because I haven't, so I don't know what the appropriate response is. But, like, I'm pretty sure you want to be a little bit sharesies about the love.
Yeah.
Like, you
It
would
seems
like to.
It's fair.
Yeah, like, anyway, so I don't know what this. So, anyway, I'm just. The idea that there is, like, an absence of manipulation, I would like to say, I challenge you, sir.
I think I absolutely see your point. I also think Richard's too dumb to totally manipulate.
Richard is so dumb.
He's also I still have this line written down that I also really like too. It's the so there's this scene where they're talking to one another. And she tells him about himself, like, here's what my impressions of you are. And it's all stuff that she got off the dust jacket of his book.
Yes, yeah.
And not only does he not seem to recognize it, but his line was, and I quote, if you lived in Salem 100 years ago, they would have burned you.
Yes.
Like, Richard, you silver-tongued devil.
Yeah.
I could see why those books sell so well.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, a lot of women in Salem were probably burned because they can read.
Sure. I mean,
and
that's 100%.
that seems to be where her observational powers come from. But
well, that's like, and I just. She can do so much better than him, but he didn't look enough like her father, or like her, like
Vincent Price could have.
Vincent Price was probably a better.
Like, even the mother seems very like, well, are you sure? What are you?
Yeah, but Richard just looks so much like her father that she can't help but like that's her. That's Bonetown now. You know, like that's.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, you. This is the time. And it certainly isn't that was the other thing, too, of, like, how you know when you want to get married. And he tells that story about how he just jumped on a ship one day because the ship looked good and smelled good. And that's kind of how I think about marriage. I'm like, what kind of Kerouac nonsense is this? I just jumped on a boat because it smelled
It's always
good.
so hard in these older movies, too. I mean, it sounds like you watch a lot more than I do. But to hear Richard say he's only 30, I'm like, you look 90. Like, what?
As men did. Men
wanted to look like men. I'm like, you're 30?
The Depression really aged people. That starvation just really put lines on the face.
Sure did. Like, he did not look 30 at all.
I mean, that said, also, I think this film could easily get an Oscar for costume. Like, the outfits are spectacular.
And beautiful.
And just beautiful. And also, I would love to wake up looking like Jane Tierney does. Every morning.
I could not tell for the first half hour, could not really tell Jean Tierney from Jean Crane. It was difficult. And I thought it was so interesting that the casting choice was as it was, which is to the mother adopts a daughter who looks enough like her daughter to be passable as her flesh and blood, but like will not have the same closeness to. It will not be a rival for her husband's affections, apparently.
Apparently.
I think too that the mother was probably like 40 in this movie.
I think she's supposed to be 40, which essentially you've had your children. It's time to die.
Just walk around.
Enjoy that ice flow.
Yeah, look worried a lot.
I think she's legit afraid of Ellen as well.
I think so too.
I think they which is weird too. I think the film sort of underplays that a bit because the actor is clearly playing it as though she's, it could just be that she thinks it's inappropriate that her daughter is hitting on this author dude on the dude ranch when she's engaged to somebody else. But she seems legit afraid of her, but she always downplays everything. It's that she there's nothing wrong with her. She just loves too much. Which kind of goes against the way that...
It feels like some sort of code for...
It's a denial.
For like manic depression. I don't know. Like, obviously, Ellen is suffering from maybe manic depression, or I don't know. There was something...
I think homicidal tendencies, actually.
Homicidal tendencies. But there was it was a very much like an extreme... I love you, and then it was, but you rejected me, and it was.
Well, it's kind of an obsessive narcissism, right? Like,
yeah,
that's the other, and the Ruth has that scene too where he's the reason that Richard is on this dude ranch is that he's trying to finish a book that he's working on.
Yeah.
And there's that scene where he's outside trying to work and Ruth like is on the trellis above because she's always gardening.
Always.
Constantly gardening.
Well,
in
the
this
girl with the
movie.
hoe must
She's the girl with the hoe.
always be-
Yeah.
I got stuff to
gal-
say about
gal-
that as well. It's just
Is
whoa.
it gal with
The
the
gal.
hoe?
The gal with the hoe.
Yeah.
But she also, that scene they're always almost trying to warn him, but the movie doesn't want to lean into that all the
Yeah.
way. It doesn't want to go full like the bad seed where
Yeah.
Yes.
where she's no, she kills, she loves, and then she kills.
Yeah.
And then of course she comes swimming up like Jaws as well.
She does.
Ruth
yeah.
jumps down off of the
30 years
trellis.
before Jaws exists, there's Ellen in a lake.
Makes this lake appearance where she sweeps up from under the water.
And then when she races the children and the mother, Ellen always wins.
Yeah, the lawyer who's
The
hosting
lawyer.
them.
The lawyer
yeah,
story,
yeah,
yeah, right.
No,
The dude ranch owner,
Ellen always wins. I'm like, this is interesting.
Red flag.
It's a red flag.
I love all the red flags. Like there is nothing subtle about this film.
No.
And that's one of the things that I love kind of so much about it. Like I'm not going to say specifically that this is a brilliant film in any way, shape, or form, but it gives us a character unlike I just don't think
Like a Glenn
character,
Close almost in
Well,
Fatal
and that's the
Attraction.
thing,
is
like,
what
I
I'm
don't
thinking.
think a character like Ellen has ever really existed before. And the other thing that they do, which isn't to say that Ellen's homicidal tendencies are okay or there are any like justifications for it, but like what they do is they sort of make it a little bit like we kind of understand like she is surrounded by people. Her husband keeps arranging surprises for her that are all about like forcing her to entertain others in small quarters. He does not consult her or like treat her as a partner. Like he is an idiot.
And she legit starts unraveling when she's at an isolated like rural cabin, and that is my nightmare.
Yeah.
Being in a,
100%.
I
Well, they
would,
got
I
whatever
would,
dude fella there is that will help out, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
got little Jimmy
But
or
the
little Donnie, little
Danny?
Danny, little Danny.
But The Shining is a real thing here.
Yeah.
Ellen.
Yeah.
like this is literally my nightmare. So I
Yeah,
understand.
but all she wants is to be able to like I think have sex with her husband without having to like go into the woods.
Well,
like,
let's be honest though.
This is
Let's be
what,
honest
what,
about
what are we
our,
in 10th grade?
yeah.
We gotta creep into the woods if we want to have
Richard
sex.
would have been
This is
very happy just dating around, taking care of little Danny. And like at the lodge. No, he wasn't even going to come to the lodge. It was just because he had some miraculous, I don't even know, we didn't even know his disease, did we?
No, I think it's maybe supposed to be polio.
I was thinking he's supposed to have polio. Too.
I think
okay,
it's
yeah,
something
that-
that has sort of paralyzed his legs, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Because they're very vague on that. But he had this miraculous cure because of Ellen's powers of, I don't know what.
Caretaking.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That sounds. I'll buy that.
But even like there was something about Richard that he would have like I guess we're supposed to get some sense that he would have just stayed this great bachelor, right? That went to the dude ranch, goes up to the lodge, pops in on seeing little Danny for a while, and then heads off on another adventure.
Well, and the thing is, like Richard says to Danny when he brings Ellen home, he's like, well, basically, he's like, Danny, if you don't like her, we send her back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And like this is I think Ellen's first full realization that like she has made a mistake.
Yeah.
Like that she has not.
You will not be the focus of the attention.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
She thought that if she got him away from Ruth and her mom, and like and went to this place where, it was just like theirs, that maybe Danny would go back to school at some point, and they could like sort of resume a life that was just theirs. And it's just like I don't know what that life would have looked like other than her lurking behind him while he writes and preparing sort of like a well-placed setting at the table every night. I don't know what her long-term game plan was.
She is the most, like, even just having to spend 2 hours with her in this movie was so awful. Like, I can't even imagine what that presence would be like to be around if you were a person. Like,
Ellen is pretty exhausting.
Yeah.
In 2 hours, that like 3 days of their courtship must have seemed like a lifetime.
That's why they got married so fast.
That must have been it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I think what you were saying before, like what I think is really fascinating from 1945 is that she is this woman that goes against all the sort of womanly things.
Oh,
right?
she doesn't want to be a mother.
She doesn't want to be a mother. She doesn't. Not only does not want to be a mother. That's a whole other level.
Hurls herself down the stairs. But like, I honestly, when she said that this pregnancy is a prison, I was like, oh, I think there are women around the world at that time, particularly, that would have been like, you know what? Hear ye, sister.
Yeah, no.
Like, this is.
Although
they must seem like very uncomfortable too.
But it was also super. I mean, they put Jean Tierney in a quilted robe.
I know.
And it's just, look at me, look at the size of me.
I know.
They put a quilted robe on.
I had no sense of how pregnant she was.
No, I think. That was not, and I think that could also be tied into like sort of Hays Code type stuff. Like they fall into those like I Love Lucy tropes. Like they sleep in separate beds.
Because you've said this a couple of times.
No, it's post Hays Code.
What is Hays Code?
Oh, the Hays Code is where like basically like everything, like you couldn't show like sex anymore.
So these are rules that filmmakers had to use? Like
Okay. So like basically like before 1931, films were actually much more risque. And you could have a lot more sort of like tromping around and like sexy times and
not
sort
sleeping
of like
in two single beds
adult
to each other.
Content.
You could have criminals who weren't supposed to just be bad. This was the other thing too, is that if you did a film about a gangster, they had to die. They had to.
Right.
You couldn't
be
just
punished.
be.
There had to be punishment.
There had to be punishment.
Yeah.
And the Hays Code would have still been in place then.
It was.
But it's a similar thing of like you can't be visibly pregnant, because if you're visibly pregnant, then you've had sex, and sex is forbidden. So,
even though you're married, like it was like really specific.
Well, they couldn't say on the I Love. It always pops into my mind that on I Love Lucy, when they wrote her actual pregnancy into the show, they couldn't say pregnant on television. She was expectant.
Oh my goodness.
So separate beds and expectant and quilted robes. Those were.
And Karina Longworth has like a good few episodes that explain like the Hays Code.
Okay, yeah.
In her podcast, I can't remember which episodes they are, but they're really good, and like it gives a much more thorough background than I did, which was quite a cheap. Yours was better, but like mine was quite a cheap.
So sometimes that is something to keep in mind when you are like, that's the issue sometimes when you're watching these movies, right?
Yeah,
sure.
Is that something you might think is a plot hole is just actually just a
illegal
constraint and illegal.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, especially if you go back and read like the Maltese Falcon, the book. It's a lot clearer. Well, it's very obvious the way that it's written that like the Joel Cairo character is gay, whereas in Peter Lorre just plays him as like not even particularly effeminate. He just seems kind of.
Peter Lorre.
He's just kind of Peter. he's like a sort of shifty Peter Lorre character. He's not quite the sissy stereotype that showed up in movies, but he, all of that was like completely taken out. A lot of the sex content of the Falcon was taken out, but that's another film.
That's another film. There's sort of a lot of sex in this, kind of.
Well,
like,
honestly,
I'm gonna guess
that super aggressive kiss
that he's putting up with Ellen for some good reasons.
I imagine. That must be it.
They do show her climb into bed with him. Out of their separate beds
in the morning.
And she looks like she's getting prepared for some stuff. And then Danny bangs on the wall. Danny. And no, I'm not advocating for murdering,
a
sort
sweet
of like
little child.
Like a young disabled boy. Like that's not cool. But there are aspects and moments in Ellen's development that I just do take a lot of delight in, that I cannot help myself, because
I think that's what the film is. I was saying like. This is spoilers in this. I mean, there's nothing we can do. But
it's a film from 1945.
It's from 1945. You should have seen this by now.
Yeah.
So when Ellen does take Danny out swimming, and he drowns
voluntarily. This is part of his physical therapy.
You can swim across the whole entire lake. But the scene and just her outfit and her complete
beautiful.
Lack of empathy, interest, care, like she is. Well, they're manipulative. She planned that one out. Like, we're going to drown
But you see
this
her
little
still
Danny.
in that moment deciding, am I going to go through with it?
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's that speaking to like that idea of like how she sometimes seems to make some spur of the minute decisions. Like, but in her head, that her Ruth and her mom know that she's going to kill Danny. They're trying to convince
Danny to come
to them,
that's
to
exactly,
their place.
exactly.
They know that this is going to get not great.
Yeah.
And they try to, but at the same time, like, we get to sort of the end of the film, and she's saying to Ruth, like, she sees that he has dedicated his book to her sister instead of his new wife. Like, I can't even imagine on any level what that would be.
I think he'd pretty much given up.
That's another scene though with his mother-in-law where he says, "Well, I'll dedicate the book to you," because she does what all writers crave and gives him lots of compliments.
And she's like, "No,
dedicate it to your wife. Dedicate all your books to your wife."
Yeah.
And she tries to tell him, and he just is not. He's so dumb.
Well, he's just a dumb, like you said, he's dumb.
But but the thing is, like,
plus he's probably moved on to Ruth in his mind.
Well,
already.
that's the thing, and like,
think
I would
so.
move on to Ruth. Ruth seemed really great.
She was.
She was.
She did a lot of gardening, and she seemed very kind.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's exactly the kind of like basic person that he wants.
Right?
You know?
Out
like,
in the lodge, she would have been really good for
she would have
Danny.
been so happy. And like Ellen, unfortunately, just really fixates on Richard in a way that like ultimately is her undoing as well. But like, she's not wrong. Like, she is like, oh, they are in love with each other and he is going to leave me.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm going to like set her up for my murder. Like, I mean, all in all, she's not wrong.
She's not wrong. No,
she's perceptive. She sees it coming. I mean,
Yet we could also say she kind of caused this entire rift by murdering his brother. But
because for most of the film, certainly during all the scenes at the Dude Ranch, he's really, I mean, he talks to Ruth, but he's always wondering where Ellen is.
Yes.
And they're clearly having, he's clearly super attracted to her from the moment that he sees her on the train at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I think that though it becomes more of a jealousy thing, and then it sort of becomes real. I just think that the film could have developed that a little better. I think that it's not exactly clear whether they're falling for each other or whether he's just sort of being sort of nice. Like he's too clueless to even seem like the kind of guy where it's, I'm attracted to you, but I'm also flirting with your sister.
Yeah.
He's too sort of vacant.
And I just, like, people talk about his performance as being one that has charm. And I'm just like, where?
Yeah. He's not.
I was just excited we got to see Vincent Price again, because I thought if that's the only scene I get him in, like I'm a big horror fan, so
I
watching
love Vincent Price.
Vincent Price in horror movies is kind of, and older too, is where I see him, and to see him as this dynamic lawyer in the courtroom scene, which is, it's funny because this film kind of has that two-part to it, right? With that courtroom scene is quite riveting.
It's the last they really sneak that in.
Yeah.
It's like the last 15 minutes. It's like, this is a courtroom drama now?
Yeah,
like that. I did not see that coming. And he really should have. So that after there's more spoilers. After Ellen takes her own life and tries to frame her sister from beyond the grave, her ex-fiance then tries to prosecute Ruth, and really should have recused himself. Someone in the office should have said, "Hey, how about you sit this one out, buddy? I think you're a little too close."
I guess 1945, man. They can just do what they want.
That's true. No one told a white man what to do in 1945.
Especially when as large and imposing as Vincent Price in that courtroom. There's the scene where she breaks up with him. His whole like, I'll never let you go.
I will love you forever. And she says, "Is that a threat, Ross?"
Yeah.
But like, she's just like, "Good, tell me more."
Yeah.
Like, it's not.
And
I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm very hot all of a sudden.
And he's sort of more in melodrama mode.
Yeah,
it's like, is that a threat? And you could tell the look on his face is like, well, no. I'm just gonna love you forever. Like, I'm gonna walk out now into the rain.
With her is something horrible.
Get back in my Model T and drive back.
Well, that's the thing with her. Everything's so tawdry and manipulative and awful.
Yeah.
And then there's just a guy going, "No, I just really care about you.
I really did love
I
you.
wish we could marry."
And a little manipulative. This is bad for my career. I'm running for district attorney, and you're going to make me look like a chump if you leave me for this jerkwad writer.
Can you leave me in 9 months?
In 9 months.
Yeah.
And
I mean, girl is not going to slow down for anything.
No, she is not to be stopped.
She was, and plus she's old. She 25, right? I
mean, sure.
Yeah.
She's
I got
six
good months left.
Right?
I mean, she can decide pregnant. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Like, she got down to business fast.
She did. The scene where Danny dies is legit chilling.
It is deeply chilling, actually.
Oddly enough, that's the scene that survived. The person who's like a big champion of this movie is Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
He loves this movie, and he's brought it up many times. But the scene that he always talks about is the drowning scene, which is it's also one of the few scenes in the movie that's not like drowned in like a really melodramatic score.
Yeah,
it's silent. Where he sort of like sinks into the lake.
And Danny's screams are actually quite effective.
Yeah. And that juxtaposition of, like we were saying, her outfit and the sunglasses and her just holding onto the oars and just hovering there and just so we can't see her eyes at all.
Yeah, I did not come here to get my mind changed on this, but you're really bringing me around, including like the scene where she induces the miscarriage by throwing herself down the stairs. She does a full costume change. And fixes her lipstick up and the whole business.
Well, the paramedics are coming. She's gonna have to.
She's gonna have to look good, crumpled at the bottom of the stairs like that.
She wants Richard to love her always.
Yes.
And be always sexually attracted to her. I love that they go from her throwing herself down these stairs, inducing a miscarriage, to her just having a nice day at the beach. And then when she comes in from the beach, she's in this like amazing
cover-up or something. That's wild.
And she comes in, and her mother immediately stands up and leaves the room, and she's just like, why?
Yeah, that's
where's
everybody going?
Came, right? Yeah.
Which also was my. The title so the book the first like the galley copy or something. No, it's a hardcover. It's like a finished book comes of Richard's new novel, which is dedicated to Ruth, who is talking about going away to Mexico.
Yeah.
And this is where Ellen completely goes off the deep end. But the title of the book is called The Deep Well, but based on the cover art should be called The Huge Sombrero.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's just the giant hat that's on the front of the cover. And she has a great take where she like, you're going to Mexico, and looks at this giant, huge sombrero.
You kind of feel like Ellen and Richard
Ellen
are like, they're kind of gaslighting her, right? No,
I know what's going on here.
You've never been to Mexico. Yeah, I know, but I don't know. Now it seemed like a good time. Really, no reason why. No.
That's why I do think there's an element like she's gaslighting them, they're gaslighting her. Everyone's in it together. Yeah. And poor Danny.
But then that's the melodrama that you feel, right?
Yeah.
Femme fatales kill you.
Yeah. Yes, they don't kill themselves.
They don't kill themselves. So that I think that she's an interesting character in that she often seems, like I said, like really confused. She'll admit to killing Danny, but then sort of take it back.
Yeah.
And say that she's sort of panicked. She doesn't seem to have like a plan. She just sort of says things.
But I think that might be part of that Hays Code thing where she has to die.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's anyway. I can't even believe that we've been talking for so long, and I'm so sorry we have to start to wrap this up. But would you say Leave Her to Heaven pops?
It doesn't. No, I don't know if it totally popped for me. It more like Bubbles traveling to the top of a lake.
Is that because you're kind of in that
as someone's
noir
drowning
lens,
underneath?
Though, if you didn't have a noir lens, would you?
I think maybe it as a it certainly has a lot of that melodrama. Well, actually, this is a weird piece of research too that I found out is that John Stahl, the director. In the 30s, directed the original version of Imitation of Life and Magnificent Obsession, which were both remade by Douglas Sirk as like full-blown melodramas in the 50s.
Yeah, he's quite. I'd like to watch some of his films. I haven't watched any of those.
Both those movies are great. Douglas Sirk movies are awesome. But yeah, as a melodrama, I think it definitely pops. As a noir movie, it sort of takes too long to find out what it is.
I love the idea of you being like, you know what it is? It's basically the bubbles from Danny's lifeless body
traveling to the surface.
Those are those tiny pops.
Those are little pops.
Little pops.
That was the
so dark, Don.
The review for the Blu-ray that I found online. The tagline was, "A woman's heart is a deep lake of secrets and dead bodies."
Oh Oh, well, that's a bit like giving it away.
That's
isn't
a little,
it?
yeah, it's a little much, but I thought that was, that's
I like it.
it's a dark
Wow.
turn.
I mean, come on, it's from 1945.
I'm saying this thing pops. I think
It
everyone
pops for
should
me.
watch it. I think
it pops for me too.
I think in particular when you mentioned Martin Scorsese, like you said, it's Gene Tierney's performance that he felt she got robbed of an Oscar.
She's super good in it.
And
it's just the kind of thing I think I feel like you need to see. Ellen.
for your foundation.
Just for like a foundation of like
Yeah.
complicated, weird, wacky women characters. Like, I mean, again, by no means someone that we need to replicate any of a lot of her behaviors. However, I stand by the fact that like you are not as a newlywed obligated to just share a paper thin wall with your 15-year-old brother-in-law, and if you think that your husband and your sister are falling in love, I say call them on that.
Yeah.
And murder them.
I don't say murder them. I'm not going to go that far.
It's instructive to other femme fatales in the audience. Like you're killing the wrong person.
Yeah, don't kill yourself.
Yeah, and so what did we find out? He just spent 2 years in prison because he lied that he didn't. Anyway,
He lied about Danny's death.
He lied
so
about
he ends
Danny's
up
death.
doing.
Yeah, he knew.
That's
Yeah.
the other great. If I have time, the great image of this is this film it has a flashback structure, which is I think another reason why people say it's a noir, because the guy who owned the Dude Ranch, who was his defense attorney, meets him on the dock after he's gotten out of prison, and he drives up to the dock in a boat, gets out of it, and gets into another boat
with his suit on.
With his suit on.
I've never seen anyone canoe in a suit.
by himself, and I laughed. I'm
Yeah.
like, you could have just stayed in that boat.
Yeah, I know.
I thought he did a very elegant job of jumping into the canoe.
Yeah,
in
I
his
did.
suit.
I noticed that how it just kept going. He'd been in a canoe.
Carlos was like, don't undo the canoe from the dock before you jump in.
The guy's a pro.
The guy's a pro.
He grew up on that lake.
You know what? Not smart, but he can jump in a canoe.
Yeah, and then and then I guess as you said with these rules and how she had to die, and then Ruth wins.
Domesticity
Ruth
restored.
Was
Yep.
the perfect woman for him.
Uh-huh.
And they just had to. I feel like it's a dark start to their marriage, but who am I?
Sure.
I mean,
You know what? I mean, if it's
post World War II, right?
well, she doesn't have to
Yeah.
worry about Ellen killing her anymore.
No.
So there's something.
I would have some dreams about like end of Friday the 13th, where Ellen would come up. With a boat down
100%.
the-
Sure.
100%. We also love to leave our episodes in something we recommend. Dawn, would you like to go first?
The two things that I'm sort of most into right now is I'm really digging HBO's Watchmen series.
Yeah.
It is super good.
It's awesome.
And Carmen Maria Machado's In the Dream House. That book is will give you everything you need. She's amazing.
I love her so much. I haven't started that yet, and I'm so excited.
For me, a new series talking about complicated woman on HBO, Crave, whatever you watch it. It's called Back to Life. Some people call it like a new Fleabag, which seems unfortunate because it really isn't that. But it is written and stars the same woman. Her name's Daisy Haggard. She is a British actress. The premise is that she has just got out of jail after murdering someone.
Okay.
And she's trying to start her life again.
Huh.
And oddly enough, it is a comedy.
That sounds great.
It's
That sounds great.
Really good. Back to Life.
That's great. I watched something on Netflix that I wouldn't recommend all of them, and I still haven't watched the Spanish ones yet because I told Carlos I would save them for when he and I could watch those ones together. But they've done this 4-part series called Criminal that has a UK version of 3 episodes, a French version of 3 episodes,
I read about
a
that.
German version of 3 episodes, and then a Spanish version of 3 episodes. And I would say so far the German one is sort of my favorite. They're all varying degrees of sort of interesting and not interesting.
It's like a true crime or what?
Yeah, well, it's not a true crime. It's sort of set in a police interrogation situation. And so each of them is confined to a room. There are a bunch of like sort of like really great actors from the specific countries. So the UK one has Haley Atwell is in it, and I can't remember. A bunch
David
of other-
Tennant.
David Tennant,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
he's great in it.
Yeah.
And then they're specific to I didn't know really anybody who was like famous in the German one. And they do a thing of dubbing, which I don't love, but it's the acting is very good.
Okay.
I've been wanting
criminal.
to talk to someone I know who had seen it. This is good.
So
I'll check it out.
I've seen a lot of them, but I haven't watched the Spanish ones yet. But I'm looking forward to it.
Dark episode, dark recommendations. It is Noir-vember.
Noir-vember. Thank you so much, Dawn, for hanging out
Thank
with us.
you.
Thanks for having me back. This is so much fun.
This is so great. We really appreciate your insight and your wit, and
It was
just
very helpful.
so helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling me a noir expert. I can put this on my resume now.
Yes, you may. You can quote us both.
Yeah, you've
This
really
is good.
educated us. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. You can hang out with us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. You could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com if you'd like to recommend any sort of things that we should check out in the future episodes. Send us love letters. It's fine. You could rate and review us 5 stars. 5 stars on iTunes and Stitcher and all those other things.
And we recorded the Vancouver Public Library. Andrea Gin is our producer. And happy Noir-vember.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Get into some stuff.
Don't get murdered.